Okay, in this video, we will be discussing my reviewer on. I'll be discussing my reviewer on the transport systems of plants. This is a lesson um, from in second quarter, grade 12 biology. So yes, let's start. So the transport systems of plants, we have two. So that's first is translocation, the other is transpiration. So what's the difference? So particularly for translocation, they're mainly done in phloem cells, so can transport either upwards or downwards. Uh, which, what do they transport? Substances. So one in particular is sugar. So how is sugar brought to the, well, basically, we all know that sugar is the end product of photosynthesis, and it's used for plants for food so that they could have energy. So it's transported through translocation, so through phloem cells, the small pores. This itself is the phloem tube. So yes, the small pores enable the movement of cell sap. Cell sap consists of water and sugar. It's a liquid mix of water and sugar. And sugars are made in the leaves so that they could be transported long distances through multiple cells. Based on the previous video, leaves, sugar being made in the leaves. This has been implied. So essentially, light reaction and the Calvin cycle, both of which are under the process of photosynthesis, they basically happen in the leaves. So yeah, sugar is used for two things. One's delivered to the plant cells all over. So one is directly for energy, and the other is when it is stored for later use. So even plants store their energy. They don't consume everything. Uh, they only consume what they need. So let's move to transpiration. Transpiration is the evaporation of water from the leaves, and the stomata needs to stay open in order to let in carbon dioxide, and as water is constantly evaporating. This happens especially when, well, not especially, this happens whenever, um, let's say, let's call it a lid. I don't remember the correct or the most appropriate term, but there's a particular lid here that's open whenever it transpirates. So at the same time, while water is constantly evaporating under that characteristic, um, the plant is also open to um, absorbing nutrients. I think that's the case, if I recall correctly. And the rate of transpiration can vary a lot. The transpiration stream, this is a chain of H2O molecules. The circles that I've drawn at the center, those are actually water molecules. They're supposed to look like water molecules. And the stream goes upwards. There's no way for it to go downwards. Unlike for translocation, where it could go up and it could go down. So yes, the transpiration stream. This is where H2O evaporates. So yeah, it's a chain, literally. Where does it get its water? From the soil. Whenever you water our plants or whenever it rains, uh, the roots absorb the water from the soil, from where they are. So yes, I think the lid that I was referring to earlier, I think that's called the stomata. So essentially, the stomata needs to stay open in order to let in carbon dioxide, and at the same time, water would inevitably constantly evaporate. So yes, transpiration is basically the movement of water through a plant. And one thing you'd have to know regarding the difference between the phloem tube and the one for transpiration is that um, this one is hollow, that's for sure. This one is not hollow. Yeah, next page. Okay, So let's talk about the four factors that affect transpiration rate. First is light intensity. So as light increases, photosynthesis also increases, and therefore an increase in the rate of transpiration. So as at the same time, more water evaporates, more stomata will have to be open in order to let in CO2 for photosynthesis. At the same time, uh, well, yes, transpiration would increase, so more water is going to be lost at the same time. That's the opportunity cost. Every time we open the stomata to let in CO2 for photosynthesis. And at the same time, if uh, in the same idea, in a decrease of light, there is a decrease in photosynthesis, there is also a decrease in rate of transpiration. So usually the tendency is the stomata gets closed. So there is no water lost, no CO2 enters at the same time. So yeah. Second factor is temperature. If there's an increase in temperature, there is an increase in the rate of transpiration. Water particles have more energy and they are more likely to evaporate and diffuse out of the stomata. A decrease in temperature is equal to a decrease in the rate of transpiration. Okay, next. So, wait. Let me give you an example for the second factor. So, let's say usually if it's daylight, the temperature is hotter, right? So, in that case, it makes sense because plants usually um, transpirate whenever it's daylight. They close their stomata if it's nighttime, if the temperature is colder. Although, of course, we also need to account for circumstances we're in. We're in extreme temperatures. Let's say, even if it's nighttime, it's still pretty hot. How hot? That I will no longer specify. That might be too specific. But usually, um, if the temperature is still pretty high, then transpiration would still occur. But of course, accounting for light intensity, most likely, uh, if there's no light at all, even if the temperature is high, transpiration wouldn't really function. At least the stomata may not close completely, but transpiration isn't really that strong in terms of the rate. So yeah. Third factor, airflow. An increase in airflow, let's say if it's windy, there would be an increase in the concentration gradient and therefore an increase in rate of transpiration. Because water is constantly being brought up from the roots, the inside of the leaf has an has a higher water concentration compared to the outside, and as a result, the concentration gradient of water can diffuse out of the leaf. And this is what dictates the rate of transpiration. So what I discussed earlier about transpiration uh, through the xylem, the hollow tube, it didn't seem significant, but knowing this, it's very significant since yeah, water is constantly being brought up from the roots. So naturally, there's an upward force. So if there's no wind, there is a lower rate of transpiration because there is a low concentration gradient. So this gradient is this one. Okay. Number 4, humidity. An increase in humidity is equal to the decrease in concentration gradient and consequently a decrease in the rate of transpiration. So essentially more water vapor, also lower evaporation. Let's say it's raining. There's a lot of vapor everywhere. So naturally, if there's a lot of water outside, then diffusion wouldn't be that strong. The plant wouldn't release too much water because there's water outside. So yeah, if you get that kind of logic. And consequently, in the same idea, if there is a decrease in humidity, let's say it's really hot, let's say you're in the desert, there's an increase, well, not really desert because only cacti live there. Let's say in the Philippines, it's tropical. It's not it's not too hot for only a few plants to exist, but many plants exist, but it's still hot. That's the scenario. And yes, so if it's really hot outside, the rate of transpiration would increase naturally because at the same time, the light intensity is, well, usually it's really high as well. Let's say uh, noon, during noontime. So rate of transpiration would increase. Usually, because plants lose a lot of water when it's really hot, they tend to wither, especially if they don't receive enough water for them to survive anymore. If you don't water your plants, they could wither. That's the thing. So it's that kind of idea is demonstrated here. The four factors that affect transpiration rate. Humidity, this is the amount of water vapor in air. Okay, what is this? Materials of the plant cell wall. Okay, this is easy. There are basically three materials. Let's remove this first. Okay, so materials of a plant cell wall, we have cellulose. So this is for plants. For fungi, their cell wall is made out of chitin. For prokaryotes, more specifically, ain't no way I'm gonna say this. With the Liverio bacteriorus. Just for this specific prokaryote, or possibly others, um, their cell wall is made out of peptidoglycan. Okay, no back page. Okay, next page. So long distance transport plants, we have, what are these? Factors that affect long distance transport. I think that's what's up. For the root hair structure, root hairs take water from soil by osmosis. For root pressure, this is caused by active distribution of water into the root xylem. Without transpiration, water would accumulate and therefore there would be a decrease in water potential. So essentially, water diffuses from soil to the xylem. This is called osmotic pressure. Mineral content inside the cell is high, so the tendency is for water to go in. Water would go in because there is a decrease in water potential. Adhesion, cohesion. Adhesion. Water adheres to the inner lining of the xylem, and this causes the upward force on liquid, or meniscus. And for cohesion, water sticks to itself. The chain of water molecules, IMF. This is either intermolecular or intramolecular forces. I'm not sure. I forgot the difference between the two. Capillary action. This happens if adhesion and cohesion are strong. Like, yeah, their capacity is strong. Capillary action is the extent of the extent of capillary action is limited to two factors: surface tension and gravity. So the narrower the xylem, this by the way is associated with the transport of water, the upward transport, as mentioned earlier. So there would be a higher capillary action. Makes sense because if a cylinder is more narrow, or narrower, it's easier uh, for the adhesion of water molecules to the lining of that cylinder, the xylem, and yes, it's easier for water to stick to itself. And that happens and that forms a chain. Both two products of meiosis we have. So okay, this is different. Uh, that's reproduction already. Let's finish transpiration first. Transpiration carries water out of the stem by evaporation through stomata. The result is negative pressure in the leaves. So it helps more water up from the roots by transpirational pull. Yes. So what's the result? A chain reaction wherein water vapor on top pulls the liquid water. So yeah, evaporation. Water vapor lighter than water would move up more easily. Okay. Okay. Um, Sexual and asexual reproduction. For sexual reproduction, meiosis produces more variations and there is crossing over. I think this is third quarter biology. I don't like third quarter biology, but it's mostly botany, like what we're talking about right now. For asexual reproduction, we have mitosis. It's associated with mitosis, produces variations that do not adapt, and there's the same genetic composition. I think I remember what my teacher said. For sexual reproduction, like what was stated here, you're allowed to produce more variations. For asexual, usually you produce variations that do not adapt to environments. So yeah, you're better off basically with sexual reproduction. You have less limitations. And yes, ovary, seed, ovulus, fruit. I'm very eager for the next lesson after this. Finally taking a break from botany. Okay. You know, I'm not gonna discuss this anymore. Yeah. I'm just gonna show this to you. Modified leaves. Okay. I didn't finish this part. I remember making a reviewer for this. This was an Edpuzzle video. I guess it's not here. Okay, what else do I have to cover? My reviewer is almost finished. I only have a few pages left. Interesting. I like this one. This isn't part of the DepEd curriculum. I just wanted to try out. This was when I was reviewing for the Leap Med. It was offered by UST, University of Santo Tomas. It's basically an auxiliary program. In the States, I think they call it the DSMD program. You graduate to become a physician faster, basically, with less time, but didn't pass anyways. But it's okay. Can't really discuss much about this. Anatomy. No back page. How about this? Structural organization. I think we did tackle this at one point in grade 12, but not as deep as this. For basic approaches, overview of human anatomy, chemical level, cellular tissue, organ system, organismal. That's a lot to memorize. But if you've seen the complete syllabus for the LEAP Med, you'd be appalled. It's a lot of information. Okay, I think that's it. After this, the reviewer is basically finished. Next video will be about life science, digestive, cardiovascular. I'll still have to check out the reviewer again. That's all that I remember. Thanks for watching.